Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your source material, really pull back the layers, and extract the core knowledge you need to be well-informed. Today, we're diving into a book that's been generating a lot of conversation since early 2025. It's Geraldine Brooks's memoir, Memorial Days, published by Viking. And we've got quite a stack of reviews and analyses here.
Yeah, and what jumps out right away, I think, is how this book kind of defies easy labels. It's nonfiction, definitely rooted in a very personal loss.
Right.
But it just has this narrative power, this poetic quality you'd expect from her novels. It uses that really intimate space of grief to explore these bigger, almost historical themes, memory, connection.
So our mission today is really to get why this book is hitting such a nerve right now in 2025 and to understand this core idea she puts forward that remembering isn't passive.
No, not any.
It's an active thing. She calls it an act of defiance.
Which is a really potent way to frame it.
Okay, let's lay some groundwork first. People probably know Geraldine Brooks, Pulitzer winner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Renowned for brilliant historical fiction like March and Horse.
Absolutely. She's always been incredible at weaving together, meticulous historical research with really deep human feeling.
And Memorial Days well, it's the first time she's really turned that sharp focus onto her own life. It's her first memoir.
That's key. The sources really emphasize that. While the subject matter is deeply personal, her method, that kind of historical rigor, it's still very much there.
And the catalyst for the book it's incredibly clear. It opens right after the sudden death of her husband, the journalist Tony Horowitz.
Yeah, that immediate, shocking loss. That void really frames everything that comes after.
So that intense grief is the starting point, the anchor.
It is. But the book moves pretty quickly, actually, from just documenting the loss to, well, reconstructing the life that was lost.
How does she do that?
She uses their shared artifacts. Things like diaries, letters, memories from their travels over decades, the specifics of their home life on Martha's Vineyard. All these pieces to sort of rebuild their shared world. The New York Times put it really well. They called it a reflection on grief, journalism, and the making of meaning from loss.
Okay, so it's not just a memoir about mourning in the passive sense. It sounds like an active investigation into remembering.
Exactly. It's almost like a thesis on how people are truly kept alive. Not just in feelings, but through the deliberate act of telling their stories, creating new rituals around them.
Which brings us back to that description from The Guardian you mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah, the archaeology one. I thought that was just brilliant. They said, Brooks writes grief as archaeology, a gentle uncovering of what love leaves behind.
Grief as archaeology. I love that. Because archaeology implies work.
Right.
Painstaking, careful work, digging through layers.
Precisely. It shifts the whole thing from something you just endure to something you actively do.
Yeah.
She's not just letting memories wash over her. She's actively sorting them, labeling them, putting the artifacts of their life into context.
And that process seems to allow her to move beyond just the personal tragedy.
It does. It lets her investigate these larger thematic layers, which is where the book gets really interesting, I think.
Okay, let's get into that analysis then. The sources seem to point to four main thematic layers that really lift Memorial Days beyond, say, a typical grief memoir. This is where we see her full intellectual range.
Right. The first big theme, and probably the one quoted most often, is this connection between grief and creation. Brooks looks at loss very clear-eyed without romanticizing it. She sees mourning not as this state of paralysis, but as something that actually exists alongside the act of creating meaning. There's this key quote, "Grief is not an end, but a conversation, one that never stops."
A conversation, that's powerful. But if grief is a conversation, how does she keep that going in the book without just getting stuck, perpetually talking to the past?
Well, that's the nuance, isn't it? The conversation isn't about dwelling in a way that stops you. It's about generative action. For her, the writing itself is the ritual of conversation. Documenting the details, giving them shape. That's how she resists the silence, the finality. The memoir itself is the ongoing conversation.
That makes sense. And it flows right into the second theme the sources highlight, memory and time. Because that active conversation you described, it's reflected in how the book is actually put together, isn't it?
Absolutely. The structure mimics how memory really feels. It's not neat or linear at all.
Right.
It's fragmented. It loops back on itself. Chapters might center around an object or a place, a photo, a letter, a specific walk they take.
Like snapshots.
Exactly, like snapshots. Intimate, maybe a bit faded, imperfect, but still incredibly vivid. You, as the reader, are constantly shifting back and forth in time, feeling that pull of remembrance.
So the structure itself resists that easy A to B story we often expect.
Definitely. And that's where she really brings in her historian's toolkit, which leads us to the third major theme, history as mirror.
Okay, explain that one.
This might be the most intellectually ambitious part. Brooks uses collective history ideas like war memorials, national traumas, even cultural amnesia as a kind of analogy for personal memory.
How does that work?
She might move from a really specific personal memory of her husband to thinking about how a whole society decides what parts of its past to preserve through monuments or records or what it chooses to forget.
So the way societies curate their pasts, that reflects how individuals do it too.
That's the idea. The question becomes not just what did I lose, but how does society handle loss on a grand scale, and what can that teach me about handling my own? She compares her personal effort to memorialize one life against these huge structured national efforts. It highlights that tension between public and private ways of remembering.
Fascinating. Okay, and the fourth theme?
The fourth is the role of storytelling, tying back to memory as defiance. Well, if memory is defiance, then writing is the tool, the weapon, almost. For Brooks, storytelling isn't just escape. It's presented as essential for survival. It's this necessary act of writing things down, filling the silence, resisting the idea of complete disappearance.
It's like the journalist's impulse meeting the novelist's skill.
Exactly, making sure the record is kept, but with artistry and depth.
Let's talk about that artistry, the style itself, because everyone mentions how luminous the writing is. It sounds spare, but also deeply emotional.
Yeah, the sources consistently point to this perfect balance she strikes. Her journalist's discipline for clarity and fact combined with her novelist's empathy.
And restraint seems key.
Absolutely. The Washington Post nailed it, calling it a masterclass in restraint, each sentence a quiet act of remembrance. You compare it to memoirs that really shout their pain.
Right.
And the consensus is clear. This is not a loud book. It whispers. Yeah. But that whisper is so carefully crafted, it lands with incredible force.
Why do you think that quiet, restrained style is resonating so much right now in 2025?
Well, the sources point to a few things. One is just the raw emotional honesty. The grief feels real, grounded, never melodramatic.
Okay.
Second, the themes, while rooted in her specific loss, feel universal. It taps into that broader sense we all have of finding lost time, lost chances, lost versions of yourself.
Yeah, I could see that.
And third, it's that balance again. Kirkus Reviews said she mourns like a historian with detail, context, and grace. That combination is pretty unique.
But, for a balanced deep dive, we need to acknowledge the caveats, too. It's not necessarily for everyone, right?
That's true. The reviews do mention that the pacing can feel slow if you're expecting a plot-driven narrative. It's described more as a meditation than a story. And for some readers, it was just emotionally very heavy. It requires a certain kind of patience, a willingness to sit with the reflections.
So its power really depends on the reader meeting it halfway, being willing to slow down and engage with that quiet conversation.
Exactly. It asks for stillness from you. But interestingly, even the reviewers who found it slow or heavy still called it exquisitely written.
Right.
Publishers Weekly had a great line that sort of sums it all up. A memoir that doesn't just recount life, it rebuilds it.
Rebuild it. That connects back to the archaeology idea.
Yeah.
And there was one core metaphor from the sources that seemed to capture everything. The creation, the fragments, the defiance.
Ah, yes, the mosaic metaphor. This is really the takeaway image, I think. Memory is not a mirror, it's a mosaic.
A mosaic.
What's gone isn't lost, it's simply rearranged, waiting for us to look again. That perfectly captures the active, creative, piece-by-piece process of the whole book.
And thinking about that mosaic, it makes the book feel incredibly relevant right now, doesn't it? This era of constant noise, distraction, what some people are calling an age of amnesia.
Absolutely. Brooks is implicitly arguing that slowing down, paying close attention, truly remembering, that's actually a radical act today. It speaks to this deep collective need we seem to have. We're facing all kinds of loss on a global scale. Environmental, cultural, maybe even digital permanence is shaky.
Yeah.
Memorial Days offers this profound sincerity, this argument for slowness and renewal, at a time when maybe we confuse loudness or spectacle with actual meaning.
So if someone listening is thinking about picking up Memorial Days, what's the final word? What's the recommendation?
I'd say don't plan to speed through it over a weekend. This is a book to sit with. You'll want to underline things, maybe reread passages, let the ideas kind of echo.
Okay.
If you connected with books like When Breath Becomes Air or Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking, maybe Helen Macdonald's H is for Hawk, this fits right alongside them.
Powerful company.
It really offers companionship for that slow, essential work of healing and especially of remembering.
So, bringing it all together, what does this mean for us? If memory really is this mosaic we actively assemble to resist disappearance, what's our responsibility? Is it just about cherishing our own personal pieces? Or is there a call here to resist the larger amnesia too? The forces that try to erase the collective mosaics, the histories of our time. That challenge, becoming an active preserver, feels like the big thought to carry away from this deep dive. Thank you for joining us as we explored memory, meaning, and the quiet power of Geraldine Brooks' Memorial Days. We hope you'll keep exploring the topics that matter to you. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
Subscribe to the Timeless Tales podcast. Your stories, your time.